Welcome to Damn Serge podcast powered by srgplus, expert insights on content creation, AI innovation, and digital asset management. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Damn Search podcast. Today we are joining Archi Benhamou, the creative genius behind VoiceMe. And Archie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Serge. It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. Archie, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. I'm Archie. I'm creative director in the webcomic space. I'm originally from France. I moved in the US a while ago to create manga. So now I'm basically creating and managing the content from platforms. I used to work at Webtoon. I'm currently working at VoiceMe. And I'm reviewing and managing all the productions, making sure we have something good to show to the audience.
Awesome. That's great. Super excited for this conversation. So, Archie, I want to touch base a little bit on AI. Of course, that's just hot topic right now. So, how do you see AI impacting the creative landscape at VoiceMe and in general?
Sure. Our standpoint is that AI is and should be a tool for creators to improve their workforce. We want to make sure that AI can be usable by everyone in order to make the workload lighter and also for them to be more efficient. That means more projects, more opportunities, and more output. So by letting every artist being able to use that to support their workload as a tool, we believe that that will increase and put emphasis on every single opportunities to be creative in the webcomic, but any visual industry, in my opinion.
Awesome. That's great. And can you share any specific examples of how VoiceMe is leveraging AI in its content creation process?
Sure, yeah. Basically, we have like some series that are done with the help of AI. So, for example, AI can be like very useful for creating backgrounds, can be for camera design, for renders. It can be like a database to pick some inspirations, or it can also just to help fix some issue with the lighting, with some shadows. Can be like very broad. There is like a lot of applications. I also personally like to use it for providing inspiration for artists of like, for example, template, or like when we want to show them what we have in mind, we can always like use AI to show some examples that would be like similar to the specific panel or angle or character design or so on that we can have in mind.
That's great. And what advice would you give to creatives who are hesitant to embrace AI tools?
My advice would be pretty simple. I just want to tell them that we should all like live in our time. What I mean is, this is called progress. So AI, in my opinion, AI won't steal your job, but however, people that utilize AI will definitely steal your job. So make sure that you move forward with it, because someone that is much more efficient, faster, and provide the same delivery materials just gonna like end up like working instead of you. So make sure that you can use all the tools you can have access to if you want to be the best in your domain.
Exactly, and this is interesting how many people like just afraid of it or something that it's AI will took their job or something. But yeah, just like another tool that you can leverage and like be creative with it. It's awesome tool and nothing to afraid about, right? You have to just like leverage it and utilize it as a tool. So it just like it's not another human being, right? But it's just your great tool to support you with your creative workflow.
Exactly. Don't see it as competition. See it as just another device that you can use. See it as your emails, your phone, your software, your laptop, anything that you can use to work with. AI can be utilized as well.
That's true. So, what are the ethical considerations surrounding the use of AI in creative fields?
Yeah, this one is more tricky because there's like a lot of different applications. So what we are throwing for is to make sure that we respect the artist for their art style and their signature. So we want to make sure that when AI is utilized, it's not to copy something that an artist can do, but just to help them. We have to make sure that we respect their copyright, their credits. We want to decrease their workload, but we don't want to them to be replaced. And what people should have in mind is that we always gonna need an artist to be involved to just oversee the project. The artist is gonna be here to give the directions, to make sure that every aspect of the project is creatively is respected, but is all like someone always has to be involved. And at some point, our biggest concern would be that some companies, platforms, agency, and so on will just use AI blindly without having any regard for the artist itself. But what we want is that the artists are using AI, not everyone else. We want to make sure that the artist can still be here to provide the right artistic directions. That's why we are engaging them in the first place, to follow their vision.
That's awesome. I like that. Like, it's kind of your requirements, right? So that's actually the tool should be used by the expert, right, in their field, and only the actual artist should use this tool, not like general person who don't really know the art will be providing some prompts to a AI, and like it will be considered as a art,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So
You can end up with something, but it's definitely gonna never be as good as uh, like a proper team done with like utilizing the AI on the right way. If you just want to make sure that you are able to follow the right directions, and you always gonna need like a creative person to ensure that. That's what we thrive for.
I love it. Archie, can you walk us through VoiceMe's typical content creation workflow?
Sure, with pleasure. So we have like different types of projects. We have originals, client-based, licenses, for example. I can start with originals. To make it short, we like to develop things internally. So we have like our own teams of artists. We create like our own pitches, or sometimes we can gather pitches from like some writers that we hire. Once we have a pitch can is basically like a log line. Like it's the story of a hobbit trying to bring the ring into the Mordor to destroy and save the world. This can be in some very like very short phrase. Then we develop that to a treatment. A treatment is a more elaborated material. It usually includes full summaries. It's like a couple of pages. What kind of audience you're gonna go for? What inspirations? What art style you have in mind? Then once we get the treatment approved, we move to script. We can usually greenlight for a few episodes first before we attach a production. Then we create a production team, align on the art style, create like what we call a story bible. Then we have like the full production, and after can be like from a few weeks to a few months, we end up with the launch. Also, we have client-based projects, which is basically kind of the same thing, but we include a lot of more like alignment with the client. Sometimes they want to come up with an idea, a story. They provide a lore for us to follow. They want to for us to support and give exposure to a specific can be like device operations or marketing branding. We then operate the kind of the similar production process, but just with like much more alignment meetings. And we also have licenses. Licenses is basically us reaching out to like different platforms and companies and studios, seeing what kind of catalogs they do have, and then we're gonna review them. This process can take some time. Review between can be between two titles to like 200 titles. We pick the best ones depending on our standards, plus what we're trying to display on our platform. Then we arrange a deal with them, and then we have the launch.
That's great. It's pretty intense the workflow you guys have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how much time it took to develop this workflow and master it, right? So how much time it took?
First of all, every single platform can have their own process. I kind of like tweaked some of the process we used to do at Webtoon. I applied it to VoiceMe depending on our needs, but also as a matter of, for example, for original production, from the idea of the pitch to the launch, it can take usually it can take like between 3 months to like 9 months. It's very vague because it's very wide,
Wow,
because it can be up to the what kind of art style and art production we want to move forward with. It can be up to any specific event we want to launch for. We can also what I've been trying for is making sure that we have enough buffers. Basically, when you launch a title, we try to be sustainable in a weekly release chapter. That means one chapter every week. However, if you just launch after you're done with chapter one, if anything happens with the productions, you're gonna end up like delay and postpone the full schedules. So what we want to make sure is that we have at least 5 to 10 minimum episodes before we launch. So in case we have any
Wow.
issues, we are always like ready and can plan for it.
Wow, that's awesome. And how do you ensure consistency and brand alignment across all your content outputs?
A lot of reviews, making sure that we are checking every single material that we receive. For example, we are like on my team, we have like people that we call amazing creative people that we call narrative analysts. They are like very good, for example, for checking every single writing materials. So every narrative material that we receive, they're gonna double check everything. They're gonna approve. They're gonna write down like every single part that has room for improvement. They will provide directions and feedback to the writer just to make sure that we can reach the creative standard that we want to have. And we apply the similar process to every single stage, from the art style, from the renders to the storyboard to the flat or even the ink art. We're making sure that we have our art director taking a look at each one of them, or project manager that are able to judge and assess the quality that we receive. So we are always trying to make sure that we can reach the standard we want. Plus, also, there is like on taste, like there is like stuff that we love and we want to see it in the good material that we do. So we want to make sure that we have an objective judgment plus our own subjective perspective on what we want to see.
That's great. Awesome. And because the show it's called Damn Search Podcast, so we are talking here about the digital assets management. It's core focus here. So what role does digital asset management play in your workflow?
Oh, wow. So as you imagine, we have a lot of materials. From just picture that, from let's say we have 30 chapters for one season. For each chapters, we have 5 to 6 stages. Can be script, renders, storyboard, inks, backgrounds, and flat. Can be various, but these are like the rule of thumb. And for each one of them, we can have like different edits. So that's around, I don't know, like 100 gigabytes minimum per episode. That can be huge. So we want to make sure that the team from every single department can have access to those materials. For can be for marketing asset, for engineering, for content, for even for the artists to review and rework some part of it. So we want to make sure that we have accessibility and clarity. So that, in my opinion, is one of the most important data management goals. So
Wow.
storage, alignment, and clarity. Yeah.
Wow. And do you guys have in places already all the systems and tools and softwares for it? And is there any recommendations you guys can have for listeners to check it out?
You have a lot of good softwares. I sometimes like to use ClickUp. Slack is also pretty decent. Also, some very very common one are Dropbox or Google Drive. We have a lot of different ones. I know that you can also use Notion. It's pretty good for that. It's basically every single like production process tracking, and you are usually able to attach some of it in every single software. So it's basically you should like check up on what fits the best your need, because already like the industry it can be like very various. Having create like producing a movie can be much different from a webcomic, from an anime, from a manga. Everything can be very different. So you have to make sure that the software suits your needs. Plus, once you find the right software, just go for it, because it's just gonna make your life so much simpler.
Wow, that's cool. And what features or functionality do you prioritize in digital assets management systems?
I would say, yeah, as I mentioned before, centralize the storage. So make sure like everyone has access to it on a very clear way. Tracking control. We want to know who attach what file at what time on which specific part. We want to make sure it's very clear for everyone, and also file sharing. We want to make sure that we are able to provide the material for the client, for the production, for every single people internal to the company. We have to make sure that everyone can access it without having to change the format, to provide like a link that doesn't work, can access it offline, and so much other. But like overall, yes, definitely file sharing, tracking, control, and centralized storage. Because everything we want would be like to save some time and facilitate the collaboration.
Lost files, missed deadlines, sounds familiar? You're not alone. Managing digital assets can feel like a full-time job. Meet srgplus, the digital asset management tool built by creatives for creatives. It is designed to eliminate the chaos, streamline your workflow, and help you focus on what really matters: creating. Whether it's sharing your files, using them on your phone, tablet, or desktop, or collaborating with your team, SRG Plus keeps everything in one place, organized and easy to access. No more headaches, no more wasted time. Just smooth, efficient, stress-free asset management. Stop letting your assets control you, take back control with SRG Plus. Try SRG Plus for free today, click below to get started. And what are some of the unique creative challenges you face in the visual branding space?
We have a lot, as you imagine, as like a lot of entertainment field. Like we face a lot of issues. One of the most important ones would be time management for sure. We also have a lot of issues with creative directions because we want to make sure the full team align with the creative leads, with also the clients, with also like our expectations. Narrative engagement, it's what we thrive for, making sure that when someone see or read something from us, he's engaged. So it has to be like compelling. He has to obviously like the story because we are doing art. So we want to be innovative, but also making sure that we are entertaining because that's the whole point of our industry. I would say also team communication and structure. So that means that making sure that the process is smooth, having like issue with uh, the communication or the structure is can create like a lot of pain in a production because it can postpone everything. We have like basically everyone in a production is necessary, so we have to make sure that everyone has their own voice, plus they are aligned with everyone else. So it's a whole microcosm to make sure that it's happening, and this can take a lot. This has to never be underestimated because that's what makes great content and that's what makes very smooth productions.
That's so great. And can you share insights into VoiceMe's creative process for developing a visual brand?
I would say, first of all, as I mentioned earlier before, emphasis on the art and the narrative quality. That's your top priority. Making sure that if you create some great content, you're gonna have branding. You're gonna have a voice. You're gonna have like something to say. Sooner or later, if your content is good, people gonna be compelled. People gonna be engaged and gonna want to see more. That's what you should thrive for. But also, I would say once you make sure your content is engaging, make sure you track the data for it. Make sure you are able to see what works, what doesn't work. What, for example, in our industry, there would be like, what is the best cliffhanger? What is the best introductions? What kind of characters work in which audience? Why? What plot twist? What turning points are the most compelling? You want to make sure that we have like the right alignment between your creative materials and your data tracking. Also, making sure that you also suggest and market the right content for the right audience. That's why also like data tracking is very useful. If you can see at what time of the day your audience is reading or seeing your materials, if you see what kind of audience, where they're coming from, what age range, everything regarding that, their demographic is key to make sure that you create like a good visual brand because you're gonna be able to focus on this specific audience, and indirectly that's gonna like shape and create your own voice. So it's, to be honest, it goes both ways. Once you
Wow.
find the audience, you're gonna have your brand. When you find your brand, you're gonna find the audience.
That's great. This is exactly how it should be. I like it. You have a very creative process there, so just like a lot of creative aspects and steps should be involved. And yeah, you how you how are you managing the people, because the creative people, it's probably one of the most hardest people to manage. So how are you working with that?
Clarity and communications, making sure that you talk, you state the fact, you are very clear, you double, you triple check every single information with them. You work with people you trust. So that means making some trials, spending a lot of energy to the scouting and finding the right sample applications. Once you get people you like to work with and you trust, making sure that you are loyal and trustful to them. Also, in terms of structure, there's like many different ways. What we like to do, for example, is use a Discord. We use a Discord server. We're making sure that everyone is able to talk to everyone else. For example, just a random example, but let's say you have a writer, he creates this story that he likes, but you want to make sure the writer is able to talk to anyone from the artist, just to make sure that they are like aligned. The artist want also to be able to reach out to the writer if he's unsure of what the script says, if he has any confusion, if he wants to know more, he needs to be able to talk. So you want to have this kind of synergy around your team. So anyone, they don't have to like each other, but they have to like working with each other. They have to like the dynamics, and they have to make sure that they are able to ask all the questions needed, because as much visibility you can have for what you do, the better you will be. So you want to make sure that everyone has access to every single materials that they would need to accomplish and achieve a good job. Plus, also, you want to be transparent with everything. You need also to, it's basically just good management. You have to make sure that you are transparent and collaborative. You need to emphasis a lot on that, because that's what makes a very good solid production.
Without communication, there is nothing could happen. So communication is the key, and to have the system for where people can communicate efficiently with each other and get access to necessary version or terminal in the company, I think it's the key. I love
Um,
it.
So I come from
Mhm.
the filmmaking industry, and we had like a lot of similar process. The only difference is that for webcomic, you can be, let's say, between 5 to 15 people. For a movie, you can be 50 to 500 people. So you have to make sure that it's kind of like similar, the similar process. It's just in a different scale. So you need to make sure that yeah, like everyone like knows and respect each other's, because everyone is important to make solutions. And it's very different from a lot of different fields, because like a production company can be like from as I mentioned, like a music, a book, a movie, an animation, a manga, a comics. Process of creating these materials are very similar to, let's say, theater pieces, or also like
Mm.
even to the army, because it's coming from like the navy and the army. It's weird, but everyone has to make sure that they are excelling on their own field without stepping on each other's. So you have to make to focus on what you do, and get everything you do without creating confusions on others' tasks. So that's very tricky. But once you achieve that, everything gonna be like very smooth.
Awesome. That's I love it. How do you measure the success for of your creative campaigns?
Same as mentioned, data tracking, my friend, data tracking. So you can track the chapters read, chapter retention, can be the MAU, can be the series views, the difference between views and reads. For it can be like the views for the last 24 hours, for the last 7 days, 30 days, and so on. So as long you're able to track that, you're going to be able to measure the creative campaigns. But also, we have another factor that I like to keep in mind is also to explore horizons, to try to innovate. That's the full basis of art. We have to make sure that we want to try something. We want to push forward and try to explore some new project, new horizons. So once you can have the try to find the right balance between critical and audience success, nothing will stop you. Definitely, like you can just like aim for the moon.
That's I love it, Archie. It was a great conversation. So let our audience know where people can find you, maybe on social media or website or whatever where people can
Sure.
reach you.
Feel free to add me on IG. It's Archi Benhams, ARCHIBENHAMS. You can, if you need to reach out to me, you have my LinkedIn. It's called Archibald. I know it's pretty hard. Archibald, and my name Benhamou, Benhamou. And yeah, happy to get any feedback. Happy to talk to any one of you guys. If you need like any insight, any recommendations or any advice, feel free to reach out. I'm always down to talk. And even if you want to chat about the last mangas and anime, always down for it.
That's so great. Thank you so much for insights and valuable content. So it was great. And yeah, I hope to have more conversation like this with you and talk to you in the future.
Likewise, thank you so much for inviting me, Serge. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Archie.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Damn Serge podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and follow us on social media. It's powered by SRG Plus, the ultimate digital asset management app. Visit srgplus.com to learn more.